The question then comes is, what is the reason why these Internet of Things are becoming so popular all around the world? The first and the foremost is the cheapness. I belong to a generation where, we built computers in the 1970s. In 1970s, when computers were built, transistors, but especially, the machines that Simon Cray built, which was called the mainframe machines, a transistor used to cost $38 a piece. A transistor used to cost you $38 a piece. In the 1980s, when PCs became very popular, a transistor costed $8 a piece. For $8 today, you can get a million of transistors. That's the cheapness with which these sensors have come into play. The second one is the bandwidth. I started a company 23 years back, and the bandwidth was rationed. What was the capacity of bandwidth that was available even for software companies? It was 16 kilobits per second. And that was actually, you had to put in an application, and people rationed how much you wanted. And I'm sure today on my machine in my office, I download about 4 megabits per second. That's what I run it. So therefore, the free availability and also the cost at which it's available, as much as we talk about the way in which Moore's law came by, which said the availability of hardware will become cheaper, it will become smaller, it will become powerful. So also we saw that the availability of bandwidth became a power of n, and it became cheaper as time went by. Certainly, we have also seen cheap processing, and all of us, if not most of us in this room, also have a smartphone. And there is cities now being connected with ubiquitous data coverage, and there are cities around the Western world, and hopefully so, Hyderabad will also get covered with the wireless coverage pretty soon. And finally, there's this new science called big data. What do these sensors produce is enormous amount of data. And that data has to be collected. That data has to be meaningfully put into databases and converted into information that is useful to people. That's basically called the analytics part. And finally, what I talked about is 20 billion devices being connected. Actually, we used to have an address called the IPv5, which now becomes V6. As a result of it, with a 128-bit address, then you can get something like 3.4 times 10 to the power of 38 devices that can be connected around the world. So the key point I'd like to make is that key enabler for this IoT devices has been a number of them driven by the cost. Let's look at how this adoption is happening to the IoT, which gets into a segue into healthcare for us. The first part of it is that the internet revolutions, which we have seen, were largely to do with the technology industry. The first one, which is to do with the fixed line, or the second one we talked about mobility, also still we believe was all to do with the technology industry. But what are we seeing today is that you see more amount of applications into wearable devices, into connected cars, connected homes, and other things like industrial internet. Transportation has become a big area, oil and gas, and finally you'll find that healthcare is yet a big area for the Internet of Things. What we have seen first is wearables have been connected. We've also seen cars being connected, homes being connected. But we think that they're already into the mainstream of our lives. But our belief is healthcare, which has been a slow starter, has actually the enormous amount of application for Internet of Things.